So we've gone on a bit of an adventure, but today we're finally back playing my favorite class, which is Sword. I don't know, I just felt like I've finally covered all the interesting new decks I wanted to try, so it's finally back to Sword. Of course, if you know, or maybe you don't, I don't actually really like playing Loot Sword, so today we'll be playing some Evo Sword instead, which is more mid-range focused deck, which is definitely more my style. So yeah, let's look at the deck list we're playing for today first. So this is the list we're playing for today. It is Evo focused. That being said, you can see there's no Seofon here. I found a lot of games I end up winning without. I used to run Seofon in this list, and then I found a lot of games where I would just lose. I mean, I would just win without Seofon, and I don't think I even got to play Seofon like once while Seofon was in this deck. So I sort of cut him out. Of course, it's still work in progress. There is still room for experimentation. This list I adjusted for when I was still lower rank, so now that I hit Grandmaster, I might have to readjust it. But yeah, this was the list that I was playing with. The idea is to use Seofon to overwhelm your opponent on board, and then if you need to, you can finish with Albert. Cutting Albert is actually another thing that I'm considering trying out after this, because you'll see in a while, but like you spend a lot of Evo points really fast in this deck trying to get your Seofon active and just overwhelming your opponent with Amelia's boards, to the point where I'm not sure you ever have super Evo points left over for Albert, so I'm not sure it's even worth running Albert for his 12 damage classic. Other than that, you run a lot of late game cards, Gunleys for healing as well as damage. Golden Knight, pretty solid value cards, like the defensive form of Albert, and Amalia to again annoy your opponent. Solid combo is a Luminous Magus into Seofon. Those two combo well. Data's Enhance into Seofon is also pretty solid. And then you have Zirconia as usual, because half the games you just win off Zirconia, to be honest with you. So yeah, this is the list we're playing for today. Not the most refined list. Definitely want to work on it more, but for now this is what I'm working with. So let's look at some games I have for you today. Our first match here is against Abyss. For the early game, I just like to keep up to 2 of these like 2 or 3 cost early game followers, and after I assemble that, Amelia is good. If you're going first, Grand and Jita. If you're going second, then Zirconia is usually what I go with. So yeah, early game is same as the standard mid-range sword that you just want to fight them on board. This is Mode Abyss. Mode Abyss, if you let them get into the late game scot-free, you are going to lose because they have a lot of very strong cards. So you sort of have to try to pressure them on the early game to make the game hard for them, I found. So that's what we do, just go ahead and play early followers to pressure them on board. Here I trade Luna's Lance Trooper. I think honestly it would have been better to trade the Knight here, which you will see in a moment. Go ahead and pass. Opponent will draw a Devotee. So you can see if I traded with the Knight, I could have kept 2 Lancers on board. You could say it's like a hindsight kind of thing, but I think in general, if you're playing Abyss and you rub Q against Sword, you are keeping Devotee, so it's probably safer to assume they have Devotee. And then here we go and use Grand Jita for draw. There's no reason to like be fixated on saving Grand Jita for their Skybound Art. They are mainly here as a draw source for this deck, and the removal is also quite helpful, of course. But their main job is to draw. We go and play a bit of a passive turn here with the Lance Trooper into the Vials here, get rid of their follower. We'll hold on to the Evo point because it might come in handy later on. My opponent will play a bunch of Screaming and Loathings, and now we have a empty board, so now it's time to set up Zirconia. Go and drop Vern again, like Grand and Jita. You don't entirely need to save it for the post for the super evolve turn sort of evolve effect. It's just like as a bonus there to help. Vern is mainly here to help you activate your if you draw Seofon too late. Also, like, you don't always draw him early on here, so if you draw him late, you might want to use Vern to like sort of help accelerate the Super Skybound Art. So that is why he's there. Also, it's a 2-cost 2/2, which is not awful in the early game. So here, we go ahead and pressure them on board here. Hopefully this will make it very hard for them to activate their mode. I mean their Shamnacha. We don't want to let them activate Shamnacha too easily. Unfortunately, they do just like get 10 and just drop Shamnacha here, so my goal is a bit unfortunate. We do have like some pretty decent cards here with Gildara and Seofon, so we're not like too badly positioned, I don't think. Unfortunately here, even though we did manage to have Amelia survive here, we can't try to cheese out a win with super evolving her because we don't have... Well, we could drop Luminous Magus and just super evolve hit face, that would have been an option, but if they drop Ginsetsu after that, we are in trouble, so we do have to clear this board by super evolving Gildaria. We'll punch them in the face for a good bit of damage here, and out comes the Ginsetsu and Yuzuki as we expected. So here, from this position, it's actually a bit difficult to win if we let them like stabilize, but fortunately for us here, they do trade after super evolving one Tilt Fox, so we can take the opportunity here to sort of lock them. The main punish here from them would be what's the card called? Reaper's Death Slash, but a lot of people are cutting Reaper's Death Slash right now, so I sort of just like work on the assumption they don't have it, and we sort of like force them into this position where they have to just pass, because if they let me make board space, I can just drop Albert and like punch them in the face, or like any other card like Golden Knight also works. So they sort of have to just leave me to like make my own play here, so we just sort of continue like this sort of impasse, I guess, by trading Luminous Magus to get rid of the barrier. Arguably, trading Steel-clad Knight into the one-tailed Fox as well would have been better, because it would put it down to 3 HP, which means that I can drop Albert, spend fair to clear it, but yeah. Anyway, I go ahead and trade off to make board space here, and then just go ahead and drop Albert to clear these followers, and then we can just punch them in the face for lethal, so... a bit dicey, I guess, but thankfully my opponent misplayed. Next game here is against Porto, and we are going first. Just like last time, we want to look for early game. We keep Grand and Jita because I think Grand and Jita is good when going first. It's a turn 4 play, so we go ahead and keep that. Keep Vern for the turn 2 play, of course. We have Gilnalis here, not the best turn 3 play, but you know, it's better than nothing. There's a chance they might be playing Puppet as well, in which case having Gilnalis is actually quite good. Right now, Puppet and Egg are both like decks. I think Puppet is a bit more popular right now, but at lower ranks, I think you see a bit more Egg. But anyway, yeah. So we just go ahead and get rid of their follower and just poke them in the face here. Try to win off, or get some tempo going, because that is how this deck wins. Here we have free reign to just draw a Grand and Jita. Try to find our good cards. I feel like no matter how much card draw I put in this deck, it feels like it's never enough, but you know. There's Lee Shanna, so we know it's gonna be Lee Shanna. Against Lee Shanna, we just try to make it hard for them to get eggs down. The less eggs they can get down, the better, I guess. So for that reason, we go Luminous Magus here. The reason is because Lee Shanna +2, Lee Shanna spells still leaves 1 follower on board, so we can hopefully snowball that 1 follower. And we just make it hard for them to draw a second Lee Shanna here is the idea. Okay, they will use Gilnalis. Again, 1 follower manages to survive because Gilnalis can't quite really clear properly. They'll drop Wasteland to draw into their deck as well to look for more eggs presumably. And then just use Melodious Monody to get rid of my follower, which is a bit unfortunate. We don't really bother with Vals and Hans because like it's not that good against this deck. So instead we go ahead and evolve Zirconia. As much as we can, we want to evolve Zirconia because in the late game Zirconia is just a 4-cost brick, which isn't really what you want to play. So spending Evo points on her is like generally better than spending Evo points on other things, I guess. Here my opponent is clearing my board, which prevents me from like sort of pressuring them, but on the other hand, like they're not really increasing their egg count either, so that's pretty good for us. We can play Amelia to draw, pick up Prim here, we can go ahead and set that up. Again, just to keep setting an annoying board for my opponent. If they don't clear this, I can get a pretty big buff with Prim into like Luminous Magus or something, which is what I'm looking at now. My opponent will drop the Sylvia here. We are forcing them to spend that Evo Punch, which is very good because a lot of egg decks right now are reliant on Axia to deal damage. So getting rid of that Evo Points is pretty nice there. Albert, unfortunately, we don't really have a reason to look for a 12 damage Albert play because we do not have them low enough for that to ever matter, so we just end up spending an Evo Point on Zirconia here. It's an annoying board. This also makes it very hard for them to play Beelzebub because a lot of our followers will survive if they do. They do end up playing Beelzebub anyway, which is a decision for sure. And they will go ahead and deal a bit of damage here. Let's go ahead and play Zeta and Bei to get rid of the deals without dealing even more damage to their face. Making it hard for them to, I guess, live. Because if we let this go on too long, we will end up on the back foot here because deals about plus X is a recipe for disaster. Because my opponent is looking for lethal here, they probably realize that if they don't do something fast, I might kill them. Unfortunately for them though, they left a bunch of followers on board, so Seofon will just be lethal. So yeah, standard Data Bei into Seofon combo, pretty solid stuff. Let's go to the next game. Our last match here is against Rune, and we are going first. Once again, we just look for early game cards. I would say this matchup is actually fairly winnable if your opponent doesn't draw super well. If your opponent draws really well, you might be in trouble, but with an average draw, and if you don't break, you can sort of win this match, I think. So again, drop Luminous Lance Trooper, the very strong 2-cost card. It's been seeing consistent plays since the beginning, I guess. Well, I guess Loot doesn't play it, but you know. So we go ahead and get rid of their follower here and just poke them in the face. We want to maximize face damage. Luminous Lance Trooper, Trade Knights, hit face is also an option, but I think this option is a bit better, so we go with that. My opponent spent Sage Light here, which is very good because they're wasting both their dirt and their Sage Lights on clearing my board instead of healing, which is what we want to do. We can set up a lot of boards in this deck. And like their deck is actually quite limited board clear, so as long as we can get them to spend it, we're actually in very good shape. So we're not really under threat of that card, Norman here. We go ahead and evolve Luminous Lance Trooper to set up a board. So here we just want to pressure them on board, so we go ahead and line up. We don't have any Skybound Art cards, so saving Vern isn't super useful, especially since our cards in hand, Gildaria and Amalia, they take up the whole turn anyway, so we're unlikely to find a place to play Vern even if we kept him, so we just go ahead and go wide here and try to bait them into spending their removals. Here we do evolve the one with Bane instead so that she survives the trade. Again, just to annoy my opponent, especially make it hard for them to play Norman is the, I guess, main goal. So they use Enchanting Perfumer to clear her and drop the Melvi, who will get them a lot of dirt, which is fine. Go ahead and drop Gildara here just to clear and set up more board. Not really an alternative place since we don't really want to let this Enchanting Perfumer live. We have another Gildara in hand anyway, so it's not the end of the world if we need a second one. There is the Witch's Brew, and my opponent will drop Norman here. Interestingly, they choose to go for wards here. I guess because they can't clear my board, so they all have to try to protect their face with wards. We do have another Gildara here though, so we are fine there. And we have the third one as well, so that's pretty neat. So the old classic Gildara perfectly answering Norman's board. Even better this time because the Norman didn't even leave the turn. Let me just go ahead and hit them in the face. Again, we just keep trying to pressure them on board until they run out of things, and then we can just kill them with Seofon's board, I guess. Go for Lilentum here. Lilentum is a pretty classic thing. Your main way of beating Lilentum is actually just ignore it. Like you have a lot of wards with Amalia and Zirconia. So I mean with Amalia and Magus. You can see we've already forced them to spend like 2 Sage Lights, so it's quite unlikely they have board clear here. We'll just go ahead and set a bunch of wards here and hit them in the face, and like the Lilentum shouldn't pose too much of a threat because they have to spend their time trading with it anyway. Or that's the goal anyway. It's the main way to deal with Lilentum. You sort of stall it out a bit, and then once you get a Seofon active, you can actually use Seofon to just like destroy a ton of Lilentums because of the sheer number of Super Evo followers you can vomit out with Seofon's Super Skybound Art. So that's the way we usually deal with Lilentum in this deck, yeah. And we'll go ahead and use Gildara here to clear these followers. We get rid of the Lilentum as well, unsuper evolve it since they're out of super evo points. Keep in mind, if your opponent does have super evo points, leaving Lilentum alive is an option for preventing them from using her super evolve effect. So in this case, they don't have super evolve, so it doesn't matter, but just consider it as an option and decide whether you'd rather deal with what you'd rather your opponent do, I guess is the point. Coin Seofon here. They could have traded first to make it a high likelihood that they clear Prim, but for some reason they didn't, so Prim actually survives this turn. And because Prim survived, we can just Seofon them. It probably wouldn't have been the end of the world even if Prim didn't survive, although it would have been definitely more annoying. That's it for this game. So that's it for this video. I found that I've been having a weird amount of success with this deck, but I'm also still convinced this deck isn't actually that good, so I want to convince you of the same thing. This deck really isn't that good. Like, it's okay. It's not awful, but it's not that good either. Instant losers to Crest Haven unless they break. So keep that in mind. And if your opponent is mode and they draw really well, or if you break, you are looking at uphill battle. We don't really have like the huge damage potential of like Loot Sword, so we are sort of reliant on getting overwhelming people on board with things like Seofon. So if your opponent has a lot of board clear, you have to watch out for that. Yeah, otherwise pretty fun deck. Definitely much closer to the mid-range playstyle, which is what I like about Sword anyway. I don't really like the loot deck. Definitely looking at improving it, making some adjustments to maybe trying to cut Albert and seeing how that goes as well. I think there's room for improvement, which I think is fun. Fun experimenting with a sort of off-meta deck, I guess. Anyway, that's it for today. See you next time. Bye-bye.